some technical difficulty. Hey everybody, Dwayne Blay here with the NSDA, and also with Total Package Hockey. We've had a bunch of questions that have come to us over the last couple of weeks through social media, and also just being at the rink and talking to parents and coaches and families and stuff like that at different practices and games. And there's been a lot of questions that have been reoccurring, and I've thought the easiest way to get those kind of questions and answers out, or my opinion on them, I guess, is just do something like this, like a live, and get some interaction. If you're out here and you're taking a bit of a lunch break and you're on Facebook and you have any questions about hockey, if you're a parent, a player, mom, dad, a coach, feel free to fire away, and we'll answer them live as we get going through. But we've got about 7 or 8 questions that keep popping up and keep reoccurring, so I wanted to address those. And if there are any live questions that come in, fire them through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll get them up here as well. One of the things that comes up a lot with young parents, especially, and sometimes parents have their young baby and they always wonder, like, when should I put them on skates? And I know a lot of dads would like their kids as soon as they start walking to start putting skates on, which would be awesome. But I think a lot of times just exposing your young kids, so boy or girl, to hockey, to skating, and obviously maybe I'm a bit biased because we're in Canada, but that's probably one of those life skills that are pretty important throughout your entire life, like swimming and skating is one of those things, whether you're just going to go recreational skating when you're older or skating with your kids when you're older. But I think it's important to get kids exposed to hockey at a young age, or even just skating. It doesn't have to be hockey. But getting skates on them, I think when they can start to walk and start to control their body, so I'm not saying like 9 months, 10 months, or a year old, but once they get to a year and a half, 2 years, and they've got a little bit more dexterity and they're a little more solid in their feet, I would definitely, I know for my young guy, just out of experience, he found a pair of skates in the closet and just started putting them on at a young age. So we ended up getting a set of skates from a friend of ours, put skate guards on them, and he loved walking around the house with them. And we never told him to do it. We never asked him to do it. He just would ask for his skates or go find the skates somewhere and then put them on, and we'd lace them up. And half the time he didn't even lace them up, didn't want them laced up, just wheeled around. What I noticed when he first got on the ice, his balance wasn't great forward to backwards on the rocking part of it because he's on skate guards walking around. But I found his ankles were good going east-west, so in or out. And that was one benefit I found. And not that it made him a good skater or better than any other kids. It didn't. I don't think it gave him any real big advantage, especially at that young of an age. But for us personally, both my kids were going public skating probably at 3 years old and just having fun most of the time, playing at the bench or playing in the penalty box or doing snow angels on the ice. But it just got them exposed to it, and then now they can skate and they enjoy it, and it's a lot more fun for my wife and I if we're going out. So I say for anybody looking at young kids starting to play or starting to get into hockey or into skating, I say start as young as you want and expose them to it and see how they like it, but don't get too stressed out when they aren't having fun or they don't want to put their feet on the ice or they're doing snow angels. Another question that we had was as far as equipment. So when to change, skates are easy of when to change from size 1 to size 2 to size 3. Just they're going to get tight, they're not going to feel well. But for sticks, a lot of times parents are wondering, well, when do I take my child out of a junior stick into an intermediate stick? And there's not really an age on that. It's more size related, strength related, and also height related. So for instance, junior sticks tend to get only so tall as far as how they're made. So if a kid does outgrow a junior stick, they'll have to kind of be forced to go into an intermediate stick. And again, we've got videos on this as well with the National Skill Development Association. But one of the things when you're measuring a stick is kind of keeping it between your nose and your chin, so keeping it in a good area there. So if a child outgrows that and the stick's way down here, then it's going to be time to jump potentially to that intermediate. Sometimes you see young kids that are really strong and they've got pretty good skills and they almost outgrow the flex of a junior stick. So maybe they're 9 or 10 and they're shooting the puck really well, and as they get older, that junior stick is just a little bit too whippy and a little bit too easy on their hands. So the shaft size is a big thing as well. So with young kids, you want to keep them in a junior stick just because their hands are smaller. It's an easier fit on the sticks, obviously. And then as they get bigger and stronger, then you're going to potentially want to move up to an intermediate stick and try that out. And then the senior stick obviously is going to be for more of that teenager, young adult that's getting bigger and stronger. I know even in women's hockey, there's a lot of girls that use intermediate sticks through junior and through college. They like a little bit of a whippier stick. The smaller stick size is nice as well, just for hands and shooting and stuff. So some people use an intermediate stick for quite a while. But the big thing is the best measuring stick for you is going to be your child or your player. So if that stick is getting too whippy or they're outgrowing that stick, then it might be time to switch up into an intermediate stick. And with an intermediate stick, you're going to find some really good flex points. So you're going to find that 50 flex, 60 flex that are nice and whippy for young kids. But you'll also find a little bit of a bigger blade which also is helpful as kids get older and start getting a little more competitive, or handling harder passes and things like that. All right, one of the hot topic ones or the questions that we've had over the last probably year now is cross ice hockey, and is cross ice hockey beneficial for young kids? So I know right now in Canada and a lot of other countries have done this for years now, where they have their minor hockey, so they're like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 year olds, so under Adam basically, playing cross ice hockey. So basically taking the rink and shrinking it down so it's cross ice, and then they graduate to half ice, and then they go to full ice. And a lot of parents are up in arms about this. This is crazy. This has never been done. We shouldn't be doing this, especially in Canada. There's a tremendous amount of benefit for it. And then one of the arguments is, well, my kid is 6 and he's really good and he dominates, and this is holding him back. And the truth of the matter is it actually helps him, because with good players that play half ice or cross ice in those small areas, it's way more indicative of what's going to happen when they're older. Meaning they're going to have to play in small areas. They're going to have to make quick plays. They're going to have to make quick passes or quick moves around players. And anybody here who's got young players that have played in a full ice game at 4 or 5, or let's say 5, 6 years old, it's boring. If your kid's good, it's fun to watch because they'll carry the puck and they can make plays. But if your kid's not that good, they'll rarely touch the puck. They're hardly in the play. And I think the half ice and the cross ice is huge for overall player development. Now, as players get to 7 and 8 years old, and some of them are pretty good at that age, then I think going to half ice obviously, and then going into full ice I think is good, and starting to learn the rules and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the knocks on it are, well, my kid doesn't know what offside is, which is fine. I mean, you find kids in PV that don't know what offsides are, so it's not a big deal. But they're going to pick up the rules. They're going to know what icing is. They're going to know what offside is. They're going to pick up all that stuff as they go. But I think development-wise, having those strong players play cross ice or half ice in their age-appropriate levels, I think, is huge. And allowing them to dominate and get in the game a little bit and make small plays in small areas, I think, is huge. And then the players that are a little bit weaker, that are maybe a little bit behind, they're going to be in the play by accident. They're going to accidentally knock a puck off someone's stick. They're going to accidentally get in the play and try to get a shot on net, which is perfect. And we want them to have fun too, and engage and develop as well. So I'm a big fan of the cross ice and the half ice. I do understand the parents that have, we call them elite kids at 7 and 8. I don't think anyone's really elite yet, but at those young ages, I think it is important to keep pushing those better kids and keeping them motivated and keeping them developing. So going into full ice games, at that 8-year-old, that kind of major novice, I think is very appropriate. But I think for parents, we need to encourage the fact that kids are going to be playing cross ice, and I think it's part of our development model now in Canada. And I think we're going to see the fruits of this in a couple of years when these young kids now are getting into Adam and getting into Pee Wee and seeing how that development process is working. It'll take a little bit of time, but I think it's something that'll be definitely a positive for a lot of our young players for sure. All right, another question that we had coming that I just chatted this with a couple coaches this past week, but what are some of the most important skills with young players? So let's go with this team that I was out with. It was an Adam group, but let's say novice Adam and maybe even Pee Wee. But what are the most important skills? And it's a question I ask players all the time when I'm on the ice with them, is if you look at all the skills, so let's say skating, puck handling, shooting, passing, what is the most important skill? And the kids will pretty much nail it every single time. It's skating, right? You can have a great shot and can't skate, you can't play. You can have a terrible shot and skate really well, you're going to be able to play. So I think one of the biggest things for coaches to focus on is skating. And when we think of skating, obviously forward striding and backward skating and stopping are huge, but edging nowadays is way more relevant than it was years ago even. Just getting good on your edges, being able to cross over, being able to use your outside edge. So with young players, they don't have to master it right off the bat, but getting them to work on one foot at a time and work on one edge at a time. So doing single leg edge work on outside edge or inside edge. So if you're a coach or a parent that's skating with your child, but having them do, turning around a cone or turning around a circle, but getting them on their edges, getting them comfortable leaning side to side. And I think one thing too that we should really hammer with young kids is body position, making sure that their posture is correct. And that's just being an athlete. So whether they play hockey, soccer, basketball, doesn't matter, but having proper posture. So head up, your back is straight, you're leaning forward a little bit, knees bent, and being able to control your body. Make sure that their core is engaged. They're not flexing their core, but their core is engaged so that they're, kind of keeping their upper body and their lower body together and working together as they're skating and stuff. But skating obviously is the number one thing. And I think at young ages, if we can teach players how to use their stick properly, we still see players, if I've got my stick here, we still see players holding their stick like this with their knob exposed, which you can't have. It's a penalty, and you can't play like that. And then we also see a lot of players with their sticks really tight together. So making sure that we have their stick in a good spot and that their hands are separated so they can make plays. I also think it's really important to have players work on the backhand, using the backhand of their stick, so backhand of their blade. So many players want to turn their blade over to try to catch a pass on their forehand, but having them use their backhand and pass pucks on their backhand, that would be a big thing. And on top of that, I think for coaches at young ages especially, the big hot topic is concussions as they get older and get into contact hockey and things like that. If we as coaches and parents can really implement shoulder checking and scanning the ice, looking around, stick handling with your head up, right? I know when I was young, we were taught stick handling with your head up basically meant looking straight ahead as you're stick handling. Now being able to scan the ice, look around, know what's coming over your shoulders. But teaching that at young ages, I think, is huge. And that's stuff that's going to translate way further. So getting in depth, there's obviously a ton of skills, that individual skills. But I think if coaches really focused on skating and edging being a big part of that skating piece, and then some stick handling and using the backhand of the blade, knowing how to cup a puck, so keeping a cup pucked in order to keep the puck flat on their backhand or their forehand. Those would be huge little things that would go a long way in a player's development as they move up levels for sure. And obviously shoulder checking, scanning, and being aware of where they are on the ice and keeping that head up is another one that's huge for sure. All right. I'm getting old, so I don't have my glasses on, and I wrote these down in what would you say, Nicole, like a 50 font probably?
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately 50. I got Nicole here with me too. She's my the brains behind the operation for sure. But another topic that comes up a lot with parents, and especially as kids get older into that peewee and bantam age, is when should my players specialize? When should they start to really put all their eggs in hockey and really push and focus on hockey? And it's obviously a very clouded question because there's a lot of different views, a lot of different opinions on this. I'm of the belief that players should be, that the best players that I've worked with over the years that have gone on to play in the NHL or play elite hockey, male and female, have always been good athletes. So if I threw them a basketball within 15, 20 minutes, they're able to dribble, they're able to play. Soccer, same thing. And most of them are really good athletes in a bunch of different areas. So I think for young kids, it's really important for them to do other things and call it cross training, right? If a kid loves hockey so much that they just want to be on the ice, well, listen, why don't we try soccer? Because it'd be really good for your cardio. And it'd be really good for your footwork to pick up passes in your feet. The better you are at the ball, at dribbling a ball, the better you're going to be at controlling your feet when a puck comes to you. But, I think it is really important for players to cross-train for sure. Speaking firsthand of this, I loved hockey. If I was able to play hockey year-round when I started, and I started late. I started at 9, 10 years old. But if I was able to play hockey every day, I would have. But all the other sports that I played was 100% because of hockey. I played basketball. I'm a short, white guy that should never be playing basketball, but I loved it. Practices were hard. We had a good coach. And that, to me, was good fitness for hockey. But I really encourage young players to play other sports and really, experience other things. I think as they get older, like that peewee, so let's say 11, let's call it 12, 13, 14, going into that, coming into their junior years, then maybe spending a little bit more time on what sport they like best. So if it is hockey, then maybe spending a little more time shooting pucks and working out and doing things that are going to help them kind of improve. But by the time they're probably 14, 15, 16 up, most players have chosen what sport they want to play, whether it's basketball or baseball or hockey. And I think that's, those are the years that obviously if you've got a good athletic foundation and you've done your skill work and your skills are good, then at those ages now you can start putting on more size and more strength and really starting to fine-tune those skills and different parts of your game that you want to get better at. So I think, multi-athletes are the best. They're the best to work with. They pick things up quickly. They understand their body. So any parents out there, if you can help your player become athletic or be more athletic, I think that would be the best benefit for them long term in hockey for sure. A couple of questions that I received from coaches, and this one here was from a gentleman named Rich, and he asked, "What are scouts looking for?" So I've got a young player who's draft eligible going into the draft year. So here in Ontario, it's minor midget. So the young guy would be 14 years old or 15 years old. What are scouts looking for, and how should he play? What should he be focused on when he's playing in order to help his stock go up and help him get a better opportunity to get drafted? And the same thing holds true for girls looking for a scholarship that are maybe playing junior hockey. And how should my daughter play? How should she play in order for scouts to want to give her a scholarship or get to that next level? And I think the answer is play your game. So if you're a skater, skate. If you're a shooter, shoot. If you're a playmaker and you've got good hands, show that stuff. I think what happens a lot of times is players don't understand what type of player they are. And in these, stressful tournaments or stressful seasons, they tend to just play not their game. They're trying to score goals. They're trying to toe drag players. They're trying to be way different player than what they are, and it makes them look worse than better. So I think a lot of times when you look at a player, what's going to translate to the next level. So if you're playing minor midget, is beating 4 guys to the net, like stick handling through 4 guys going to the net and then scoring, is that going to translate to junior hockey? Probably not. But is making a move around one player, giving it to your teammate, getting it back, driving the net, getting a shot going to translate? Yeah. Is getting the puck out on the wall going to translate? Or is getting the puck on the wall and then taking it, as a winger, let's say getting a puck on the wall and then taking it all the way behind your net back in the zone because you didn't want to get hit? That's not going to translate. So those are things that I think players should focus on, is playing the right way. And if you're not sure what the right way is, I think there's a lot of people that you can ask, right? You can ask coaches, you can ask other players that played at a high level. Maybe you have some neighbors or some friends or uncles that played college hockey or junior hockey or beyond. Ask them those questions, because there is a right way to play and a wrong way to play. And even though you're scoring 3 goals a game and looking really good, if you're not back checking and you're not working hard in the D zone and you're not getting pucks out on the boards and you're shying away from hits and you don't want to play, in front of the net because you don't want to get hit with a puck or get into a battle, those things are going to come back to bite you later on. So I think playing the right way, but also playing within yourself. If you are a playmaker that loves to make plays and real small skilled plays, and you don't love being in front of that, that's okay. Make sure that you're the best at making those small plays and setting players up and getting pucks into good to make plays. But I think you got to do what you do best in order to look, and expose yourself better to scouts and teams that are looking for players for that junior or college or whatever it is. So just play within yourself. And I always tell players they kind of have a box. If you're a stay-at-home defenseman, that's kind of your box. Get pucks, move them quickly. If you're in trouble, off the glass, keep your head up. Stay within that box. Not to say that box can't expand and can't get bigger. Definitely can. And keep pushing. Do more skill work, talk to more people, expand your game as much as you can. But there's always going to be core values within your game that you should be true to. So again, like I opened this up with, was if you can skate, show that you can skate. If you can hit, show that you're a good physical player. If you can shoot the puck, then you got to be shooting the puck during the game. And I think, sticking within yourself is going to be the best way for scouts and anyone to see you and hopefully give you those opportunities beyond where you're playing right now. All right. We got another one here this was from Steve, and this is actually a cool question. He coaches a bunch of Adams, and he said, what elite skills should I start introducing to them at Adam? These kids are pretty good. They're pretty, A to AA, I think is what he said. And what other skills can I start implementing with these young kids, at this age? And a couple things that come to mind right away are picking up passes in their feet. And, for coaches out there, if you're working with even novice and Adam and Pee Wee kids, giving them bad passes, making them use their feet to pick up passes, because it's a skill that they're going to use their whole life, even when they get back to men's league when they're 55 plus. But it's something that definitely translates in every aspect, every play. There's going to be bad passes that are going to be made in every single game. So teaching kids how to, pick up bad passes, I think, is one huge one. The other one, too, that I mentioned to him is being evasive. So looking players off for passes. We just did a drill with an Adam group the other day where I had players just skating in a straight line like this and just looking ahead or looking away and passing the puck laterally. Super simple, very easy. But, man, if these young kids in Adam and Pee Wee can pick these little skills up and get good at them and practice, and we as coaches add them to practice. So when you're coming down on this pylon, you got to look right and you got to pass the puck left to the coach and then pick it up on the other side. But you keep reiterating this and get players to practice it. How huge is that when they get to Pee Wee and Bantam and they're like a Johnny Goudreau with their head up all the time, or a Patrick Kane, and they're looking around and they know what's going on. And now they got that evasive piece of their game where they're faking one way, moving it the other way. It's huge. So those are like little skills that I think are very, very important. And going back to the backhand part, which I mentioned earlier, as far as getting players to learn and understand how to use the backhand of their blade, I think one of the things in Adam is teaching players how to pick up hard backhand passes. There's nothing more frustrating as a coach if you're trying to break the puck out or you're on the power play and a D moves it laterally to another D or a forward on the backhand and the puck blows up, it's a turnover and it's back in your zone. So I think helping players learn how to pick up a backhand pass properly. So getting their hands in a good position, getting their stick set up properly, and then coming back on the puck, keeping that blade cupped and setting that puck up for either a quick shot or a move or a pass. But those would be 3 big ones that I would strongly recommend. And obviously your other skills like skating and, maybe now adding more quick start movement, more crossover movements, more evasive footwork stuff. So 10 and 2s or Crosby turns, things like that, I think would be huge. But just, like I mentioned, picking up pucks in their skates, being evasive, so looking off passes, faking one way, cutting the other way, and then also making sure that they're shoulder checking, looking around, and being evasive as they're doing that, and then using the backhand of their blade, so picking up hard backhand passes, and kind of adding that stuff to your practice in order to help kids get better and keep pushing through. All right, last couple here. So one of the ones here was from Chris, and it was a father who wrote in who said, I've got a 13-year-old boy who his coach wants him to snap the puck harder when he's passing and when he's shooting, but didn't really give him any feedback or any real direction on how to do that. He said, just got to get stronger is basically what he said. So how do I help him with that? And this is a common problem, I think, 13 years old, 12 years old, 11 years old, no matter how big they are. So if they're, slight boys or girls, or they're big, thicker guys or girls, they can all pass and shoot the puck hard. A lot of it comes down to technique. Yes, as you get stronger and bigger, your shot's going to get harder if your technique's good. There's no doubt. But we've all seen, little Johnny comes out of the locker room and he's 50 pounds soaking wet and he's got a heavy shot. And like, how does that happen? Right? It's just, he's got a good technique. And I think the biggest thing with snapping passes and snapping shots and getting things off hard and crisp, when we look at it just as simple as possible, is are their hands in a good position? Is their stick in a good position? So is their stick beside their body, they're shooting, like their blade, or is it way out front or way out to the side or way behind? Keeping that stick in a good position is huge. And then the big thing when you're doing anything on your forehand is pushing with your bottom hand. So making sure your blade's cupped, so that top hand will be rolled down a little bit, blade's cupped, and then really pushing with that bottom hand in order to keep that puck flat. Where coaches get really frustrated are weak passes, so just kind of little baby passes, or when pucks are fluttering. So you're trying to make a pass from the boards to the middle of the ice, and that puck takes off and it's fluttering, and very, very few players can pick it up. So making sure that blade's cupped, and we're keeping everything flat, and then adding a little bit of zip to it, so a little bit of power to it by pushing with our bottom hand and adding a little bit more power to that pass or that shot. But I think for any parent that's gone through this, or maybe didn't get advice on this, another one that comes up all the time is, coach said my son needs to work on quicker feet. How do I get quicker feet? And I think a lot of times we just say those random things and never really give explanations for it. So again, with quicker feet, it's one of those things where I think with players, they got to learn how to snap their toe properly. So while they're in their boot, they need to snap their toe in order to get that recovery and that turnover quicker. So whether they're crossing over, they're striding, they're transitioning, if you can simply just get players to snap their toe, so when they're crossing over, if I've got my 2 feet here and I snap my toe and snap my toe, you're going to notice their turnover is quicker, and that's going to make the recovery quicker, which is going to obviously add speed and make their feet a little bit quicker. Yeah, you can do off-ice stuff. You can do speed ladders and workouts and skipping and quick feet stuff for sure. That'll help. But getting players on the ball of their feet, so kind of under that big bump under the big toe, and then getting them to snap their toe as they're transitioning or as they're crossing over, or quick starting, whatever they're doing, just getting them to snap their toe. But again, coming back to Chris, big recommendation there would be make sure that they're cupping their blade, so that they're cupping their blade on their forehand or their backhand, and adding power by having good hand positioning, stick close to their body so they can use the flex on that stick, and really pushing with that bottom hand. And this is something that can be practiced in the driveway with the tennis ball. Right? You can do this in the driveway before school and just pass balls down the road or against the curb or whatever it is, but just adding more power to it. It's an easy fix. It's just something that's going to take some repetition and a little bit of time to get nailed down. All right, and a couple of questions here that I had, kind of more specific to coaches. Obviously, a lot of us as parents, we coach too, so it could be applicable to a lot of different people. But one of the ones that comes up a lot in male and female hockey is, how do I help my players become more aggressive? How do I add more aggression to their play? Some players, some young players are just puck hungry. They want the puck. They're going to the puck. They're going to where the puck is. Some players are way more tentative. They'll back off a play. They'll let that player take the puck and then go try to chase them. How do you add that aggressiveness? And I think it's something that's innate. Some players just have it. Some players, unfortunately, don't have it. But can you get a player that's not aggressive to be a little bit more aggressive? I believe so. And I think one of the ways to do that is, first of all, encouraging and explaining to them how important it is to go to the puck and to break up plays or to try to steal the puck or to try to win puck races. But then also in your practice, adding a competitive piece to your practice. So adding some races or adding some little challenges. Maybe you break your team up into 2 teams or 4 teams and you have little challenges, little 3-on-3 tournaments or little race challenges or little anything. You can kind of think outside the box with it, but having players going 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 and pushing each other. And it's a fun environment. They're usually buddies. They know each other. They're on the same team. But it gets that kind of aggressive juices flowing a little bit and gets them to kind of push a little bit harder and move a little bit harder and try to really, get a little bit more of that aggression out of it. Because I think most players that play do have that in them somewhere. We just got to help get them out. And I think even as far as the coach being encouraging on the bench during a game and, really encouraging that player that doesn't really like to go get the puck all the time, that, man, that was awesome. How you got your stick in that lane and you broke that play up. Keep doing that. Keep going on the puck. Keep going hard on the puck. And just kind of yelling those little words of encouragement and keeping them encouraged with it. And letting them know that being aggressive is okay. If you bump into somebody and they fall down, that's okay. If you get a penalty because you bumped into somebody, you're going for the puck, that's okay. Because I know a lot of times when players get their first penalty or two, it's like the worst thing ever. When realistically it's part of the game and maybe it was an accident, and that's okay. And I think, by just adding it to practice and making it okay and making it a part of the culture of your team that we're going to compete for pucks, we're going to work hard, we're going to try to win puck battles, even at young ages, I think is really important. And then obviously teaching them how to do that properly. So making sure their head's up, making sure they're using their body as far as protecting the puck, and then make sure that they're in good areas and that they're really focusing on keeping their body in good spots to get pucks where they're not way behind the player, they're not getting spun on the wrong side of the player, that they're in good positions to make plays and to really kind of be a little bit more aggressive in their game. And once they start doing that and have success, I think it'll change a lot on how they play and how their aggression level is, for sure. And the last one I had here was from a coach, and we were just chatting one day after practice, and he was talking about he coaches, and then he's got his young boy who coaches as well, and talking a little bit about yelling versus motivating. So some coaches are yellers, obviously. Some coaches love to yell, and that's how they get their message across. Some coaches love to snap, and they lose it 3, 4, 5 times a month on their team for playing bad or bad periods or whatever that is. I'm really of the belief that times have changed. When I was younger, you'd have coaches kicking garbage cans and snapping sticks and getting mad and yelling and screaming, and it was a way different time. I think nowadays, with the way our young players are, I think they're smart. They can find anything out in a minute. You can't lie to them because they'll figure it out by next practice. They'll know that you're lying or not lying. So I think one of the things we need to do is communicate with our young players, but also being motivated. There's nothing wrong with being hard on them. I think they need to be held accountable. I think that we need to make sure that they're doing the right things and playing the right way and being the right type of people, keeping locker rooms clean and being respectful to their teammates and all those other things that go with it, for sure. But I think when coaches get too snappy and coaches yell too much, I think it really falls on deaf ears. It becomes white noise for a lot of young kids, and it's super, super unproductive. Some kids tend to shut down because of it. Some kids don't enjoy it. And then you got a lot of kids that are just playing out of fear. They're just scared. And it's the worst thing to do is, play hockey because you're scared, especially at the young ages, especially in minor hockey. I think it's really important for the kids to have fun and, play well and play hard and all those other things go with it. But at the end of the day, they are kids, and they're going to mess up. I mean, we mess up as adults every day, so they're going to mess up for sure on the ice in a 20, 30, 40-minute game. So I think it's really important for them, or for us as coaches, to be motivating and be stern when you have to be stern, but really try to get rid of the yelling. And for a lot of the parents out there, you hear them on the glass, scream and bang the glass, coaching from the glass. We had a parent the other day that the partition between the glasses, so if you have a piece of glass, there's a little partition. I could see him just yelling in the crack of the partition. It was ridiculous at his kid on face-offs and stuff. I'm like, leave him alone. Like, no one's sitting at your office right now. Your mom and dad aren't sitting at your office right now yelling at you on the computer, telling you got to type faster, or telling you got to quit taking coffee breaks. Like, leave him alone. Let him enjoy the game. You can always have conversations in the car or afterwards and talk about some constructive things that were good and some things that maybe he can work on or she can work on. But I think it's really important for them to enjoy the game and have fun. And there's nothing worse than seeing a crazy parent out there yelling and screaming, or a coach on the bench yelling and screaming at his players or at the refs or whatever it is. So I think it's really, really important, I think, to be a good role model for our kids. I had a gentleman on the podcast who was a scout, Jason Buchla. I don't know if you remember this, Nicole, but he said, and it stuck with me, because one thing he said is, I just try, when I'm coaching or helping my kids out, I just try not to embarrass my kids. I was like, that's as simple as it can be, but I think it's great advice. Just don't embarrass your kids. You wouldn't want your dad yelling and screaming and banging on the glass when you were a kid, so just don't do it to your kids, because it is embarrassing. And if you don't think it is, sometimes you're in a crew of like 5 or 6 parents that are doing the same thing. You're all embarrassing. So for other parents that are out there watching, like, what are these people doing? And I'm telling you, like, as a player that's played and as someone that's, working with NHL teams and stuff like that, and especially at the OHL level, these scouts and these people, they watch this stuff and they know. I'll talk about a kid and they'll be like, yeah, that mom's a little bit intense, eh? Like, Yeah, she is. Or yeah, that dad's crazy. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's intense. And I know every one of us, we love our kids. We want what's best for our kids, but sometimes we got to take a step back and be like, okay, it's about my kid right now. My kid's the one who's on the ice. I shouldn't be the one with everyone's watching because I'm banging on the glass and yelling and screaming and I'm mad because the ref called a penalty or we didn't score a goal or whatever it is. Just let the kids have fun, enjoy it, and then be a parent and just grab a coffee, sit back, and relax and have fun with it. We've got a couple other ones come up here, but I can't see anything, so I'm gonna grab my glasses. There's one more question here that came in, just about, I guess, more so, kind of general, I guess, for parents and coaches and everybody. But when is the right time to make that elite jump? So let's say my kid's playing house league or my kid's playing B or A. Is there a boat? Am I missing a boat? Is there something that I'm going to miss if my kid's not playing AA or AAA by Adam, so by 9 years old? Absolutely not. There's no such thing as a boat. There's no such thing as a train you're going to miss. Just the biggest thing I think with young kids is, number one, make sure that they're enjoying going to the rink. If you're dragging your kid, your son or your daughter to the rink for practice, don't do it. Make sure that they're enjoying it. Make sure they're having fun. Try to help them become independent. Let them put on their own gear. Let them undo their own skates. I know at young ages we got to tie skates just to make sure that they're on properly and they're not easy to tie. But let your kids have that time and let them have some ownership in the game, meaning making sure that their equipment's packed, making sure that they can put on their equipment, they know how everything goes on. And also, as they're moving through minor hockey, you're going to know if your kid's elite or not. You're going to know if your kid's taking those next steps, meaning you get home from work and he's shooting pucks out in the backyard. Or you get home from work and, hey, where's Sarah? Oh, she went for a jog. Or she's doing push-ups in the basement. Those are little cues that you're going to be like, okay, if your kid's never doing anything, loves his video games, loves her, books and things like that, nothing wrong with that at all. But they're probably not, trending to be an elite player at that time. They may switch, they may change later, but kind of read off your player. And if they are, a player that's super motivated and wants to play A or wants to play AA, then, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think a lot of times us as parents, we want it. Our kids are good. They're athletic. Man, I think you could play AAA. And we want it sometimes more than our kids. And I think that's wrong. And that recipe doesn't work long term. I think that does fade out and burn out. It may take a year, it may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but eventually it will burn out. So making sure that your kid is engaged and if they want to do it, and if they do want to do it at Adam and you feel like they're ready, they're good enough to maybe make AA or AAA, and they have that maturity to them, meaning they can get dressed on their own, they're good in the locker room on their own, they don't need mom and dad around all the time. I think then it's great. I think when kids are too dependent on their parents and aren't ready to make that jump, there's a lot of different things that go into playing competitive hockey, even the culture, the craziness around the teams, the competitiveness. There's a lot of things that go into it, and if a player's not ready for that, it can be overwhelming, and sometimes it's a terrible experience. So I think making sure that your young player is ready to make that jump into the more elite levels, and then once they are, hopefully they have success, and you as a parent can help set them up for that as well.
And sometimes they might get overlooked by other coaches too. Curdy Gabriel was on the podcast. He talked about that. Didn't get really anything higher than A or B hockey until he was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
Had to go outside of his association, but...
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stories like that too, which is a great story. But Curtis Gabriel, who is now playing in the AHL, has played games in the NHL, but went undrafted to the O, is just playing local hockey, got cut from some teams, didn't make the AAA team, and there's some politics involved. There's no doubt about it. And then found his way, switched associations, ended up playing AAA, and then ended up playing in the OHL, and things fell into place. But he's also a guy that we know works extremely hard. So he there's no reason that he was not going to make that team. Another great example is Matt Murphy, young guy who played A/B hockey. He was he'll tell you, probably 20 pounds overweight as a young kid, and totally flipped it, worked his tail off, and now he's playing Division III college hockey down in the States and is having a blast, and and playing some real elite level hockey. But another kid who just worked his tail off and never stopped. And also, I think a lot of those guys got good advice, whether it was Curtis up in the Owen Sound area getting some good advice from a coach and where to play and what to do. And I think Matt, same thing, got some good advice along the way of, okay, maybe the OHL is not for you. Maybe going to play prep school would be great for development and keep working out and things like that. So, getting surrounded by the right people to help make these decisions, I think, is huge, and having people that aren't just in it for money or have any hidden agendas, that are in it because they genuinely care about your kid and they genuinely want to see your player kind of move on or go on with hockey. So I think it's huge. We're going to try to do this on Fridays. So this is the first one we've done so far, obviously, but we're going to try to keep doing this on Fridays at noon. I know there will be a couple Fridays where I'm traveling and won't be able to do it, but for the most part, Fridays at noon I think are going to be what we're going to do, and it's going to be like this. We're going to keep kind of cultivating questions throughout the week, and then come in for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, however long it takes to kind of get through some of the questions and get this stuff up. And then we will post it up on YouTube as well, so you'll get a chance to take a look at it there if you missed the live. But again, if you have any questions at all, you can hit us up on NSDA Hockey on Instagram and let us know any questions that you have that are hockey related, or on Facebook. Feel free to leave any comments that you want, good or bad. I mean, the bad will make us better and the good will give us content, so that's perfect. But yeah, leave questions, any hockey questions that you have, and we'll kind of keep soliciting you to get more questions and keep the dialogue going for sure. But for anyone who checked in, thanks a lot, and we'll see everybody next Friday. Thank you very much.